Yeah, boundaries. Now, as a father, I've taught my children to respect other people's boundaries, and it's a very important concept. But somewhere along the line, somebody forgot to sit the tech companies down and actually have that talk to them as well. And looking at the recent Facebook shenanigans, I think they also need to sit down and discuss no means no. I've got with me today Meg and our social Jason warrior to discuss tech companies maybe overstepping the line a bit.
Yes, like I don't know how to respond. Like I feel I need to do a Zuckerberg meme and just like.
Well, you're a robot.
Yeah, like, I mean,
and
this is the thing. That's the best possible outcome from this thing is that the actual content of what Zuckerberg said, and let's be real, the actual people interviewing him had no idea what the hell they were talking about.
It was awful.
It was awful.
It was like they were trying to understand it for themselves, not for the, like the greater cause of the case.
They wanted him to explain how to put like photos onto their USB drive or something. It was like talking to someone's grandma.
Hard.
It was, but that's what they want. They want you to remember it as the memes, as the lizard people memes, as opposed to, oh yeah, by the way, whoops, we breached your privacy a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to do another serious business today because I think there's a lot to go into there. But I was very surprised. Probably the smartest person in those conversations with Zuckerberg was Ted Cruz.
Yeah, and that says it all. That sums it up. When the Zodiac Killer is the best person in the room, that's saying something.
Yes. Well, look, let's look at what they're actually doing because we all use cloud services now. That's pretty common for gaming and for other things. But first one I was going to look at is Facebook. It has come out recently that they scan your photos and your links that you send in Messenger.
Yeah.
And they scan that for hate speech. Now, the example Zuckerberg used there was a noble example, and a lot of these do have noble reasons for them initially.
You should block my store.
His was about a genocide that might be happening, and they would pick up organisation of the genocide and say if Rwanda happened again, basically, and you find that, and that sounds great. But
it's a ridiculous next level excuse. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I was going to say it sounds great, but. You know, there's other ways to pick that stuff up as well. Sure, next level.
I mean, we've all uploaded a photo to Facebook and had it automatically tag our whole friendship group in one picture, being like, "How the hell did that? How do they do that?" And this kind of topic stresses me out because it's not just that, but also now on my phone, whenever I take a photo, it like syncs, like it tags it automatically in the location I'm at as well. It's just next level.
I'd like to point out I don't even have a Facebook app installed. I use web browser versions of it for everything that I do, which is why you should never send me a Facebook message because I won't answer it. But it is so obvious. You will say a word that you've never said on like actual Facebook itself or anything, and there it is.
My favourite thing to do is sit there and just be like, baby nappies, and see it.
But you're at that age as well, so you might just get the wave of.
My brain just went to the first thing on top of my mind. But as an example,
I'm
Freudian.
I'm clearly marked as married on Facebook, and I've got non-stop Russian bride ads all over.
Yeah, man. Hey. The one advantage
off
now.
To the White House with me. But I mean, even though you mentioned, I didn't want to get too much of that here, but you mentioned you don't have a Facebook account. You're safe. You're not safe. Facebook's cataloguing because they can take every face they see in every photo. They know that that's the same person everywhere. They know who's commenting about it. They know who's mentioned. They're building a profile. So you actually. I know people that say I don't use Facebook and I use Google stuff instead because I'm worried about privacy. Which, okay, let's get into the next one because that leads into my next point. Now, Google last year locked a lot of people out of their Google Docs because they scanned the Google Docs and they found what they believed were offensive words. Now, they backtracked from that, but there's a lot of authors at the time saying I'm preparing drafts of novels or things I'm writing, and they're creative. Like if you're writing a novel, imagine you put up the example when we were discussing this pre-filming. Salman Rushdie in 2018, it goes through and scans it and basically locks him out of the doc. I mean that's where Google is heading. Now they're backtracked, but then again. They also said
with YouTube as well.
They accidentally demonetized stuff.
Accidentally.
And then they went and demonetized stuff later for Reels.
I remember when Microsoft when they first brought out Office Cloud or like whatever they want to call it, right?
365.
365. And they said if you buy the original one, great, you can save your own files, blah blah blah. And then they would offer you a discount on cloud. But the proviso was they were allowed to access your documents, or they were giving free copies to universities as long as they got to keep a copy of your thing. And it's like, what if someone's done their like thesis or their dissertation? Research, all that
crazy
stuff. It's like, why would you ever consent to that? Like, you just
a lot of uni
wouldn't.
students use Google Docs to collab on group assignments and things like that, and that's that's groundbreaking stuff sometimes. Depends, but.
Well, and I mean, the other part as well is we do use Google services for some stuff too. And we're paying for that privilege. And then for them to still have the power to say, no. Like, it is that case of, and again, a lot of these are going to be tied by the theme of what exactly do you own nowadays? And the answer is not a lot.
Well, that's something the general public, I don't believe, is aware of. They don't own a thing.
No, the terms and conditions are tiny. You want to skip through it. There's always essays of it. And what's the grey area of what they're deeming is inappropriate and what's not?
And can you realistically change it? Yeah. I mean, in a contract, you do need some sort of negotiation to actually be a legal contract, but that's never happened in EULAs. But now you mentioned Microsoft. So now Microsoft recently, and this is what started me thinking down this road. It was found in their new terms and conditions a bit of a worry for gamers about saying offensive words or hate speech, whatever they want to term it today. A vague term on Skype or some of their services, and what the penalties can be. Now just quickly, it was discovered by a guy called Jonathan Corbett, who does research in this stuff. We'll get to something that happened to him after that later, so remember that. But basically, in the Code of Conduct section, we've clarified that use of offensive language and fraudulent activity is prohibited. We've also clarified that violation of the Code of Conduct through Xbox services may result in suspensions or bans from participation in Xbox services, and this is the bit that I'd be worried about, including forfeiture of content licenses, Xbox Gold membership time, and Microsoft account balances associated with the account. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How should gamers feel about that?
So, well, and it is that thing of, I mean, Origin had the thing a couple of years back where your forum account was linked to your Origin account. So if you got banned on their forum, you got banned from playing your own games. Yeah. And it's like, well, I mean, even if you find them to be thing, you're still happy to take their money until such point that you say, oh, we can take your money and we can ban you when we want. Like, we got both sides of it, you know what I mean? Like, they don't even have to offer any recompense in any way because you're only ever buying a license.
It's always been my concern with a lot of these things. Now, there may be, I suppose, well-meaning. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, especially on the internet. But yes, see, we have an established legal system built up over hundreds of years that has, you can have retrials, you can challenge, and yes, the legal system is based on how much money you've got, and we all know that. But it's still there, and it still sets sort of conditions. There's precedent. There's a lot of things. We have an extrajudicial system here by private companies that can basically say, we don't like something you've done, therefore we're going to take what we sold you back off you.
So the big one for me there is that, so the sheriffs can do something similar. Let's say you get 5 speeding fines, right? You don't pay them. Your license comes up for renewal. In Victoria, the sheriffs can say, you can't renew your license until you either A, at least make it, like, talk to us or pay your thing. And if you don't do that, then you can't re-register your car. You can't pick your license. You can't do all these things as a government organisation. But that is so heavily kept in check by the legislation around it that you have some way to you can say, well, hang on, that's not my thing. I can pass on the ownership of the ticket and say, I didn't speed, someone borrowed my car. There are ways and means to do it. In this, it's a civil suit. It's going to come down to who can afford the better lawyers. And realistically, the company doesn't have to win. They've just got to beat you. It's just got to be a Pyrrhic victory. It's just got to be that they can do it without. They can run you out of finances without you being able to fight them back effectively.
Yeah, well, the legal system is how much money you got. But at least it exists, and at least it does have some sort of recourse. That does have, some sort of challenge ability in it. Now, people like to talk about, but that's a conspiracy theory. How that can be. But the guy who I mentioned before that actually put this on Microsoft and Reddit promptly got banned. And that's the thing that makes people's tinfoil hats just sort of sit in place nicely.
Illuminati.
Well, I mean, to even go to the other bigger one is Ars Technica own Reddit, and Ars Technica is in itself owned by Sinclair. And Sinclair, of course, were the head of the whole buying up of smaller media that's not internet-based anyway. So, again, sure, it's a conspiracy theory. Grab out your tinfoil hats, kids, but follow the paper trail.
Yeah, well, some conspiracy theories are true.
Yeah.
But you do wonder when something like that happens, don't you?
Yeah, I feel like this is crazy. The fact that they can just take something that you bought with your own money, your own income, and just decide, nope, you can't have it anymore for doing maybe a couple of things that they found offensive. Like, where is that Where's the grey
They
area
keep it
there?
deliberately vague. But
Yeah.
that's the idea. Like, if they were to say, here are the specific circumstances where you can do it, then someone would have a way to defend themselves, because they could say, well, I don't believe that that's considered hate speech, and then you're onto a First Amendment argument. Blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
blah. And don't get me wrong, like, hate speech is hate speech. If you're a gronk, you're a gronk. But, like, that's why they keep it vague.
Yeah.
Like,
But let's look, moving on from the irony of being banned off Reddit for pointing out that you can be banned off something else. But let's look briefly at hate speech, right? Now, that is a subjective term. I'm going to guess, look, different countries, cultures have different ways of doing things. In Australia, how we speak to our friends is very different.
you can
to how
say it. You mean... No, it's all right.
Well, I'm an old person, so I'm still not 100% comfortable. I can tell you, everybody I know that's under 20 will just basically use it instead of mate.
Yeah.
So, but in America,
There's still a
do the
taboo, a
same things.
huge taboo around it. You can't drop C-bombs. Like, it's C-bomb, N-bomb, and maybe F. Maybe F.
Yeah.
Like, and no. And I don't mean, like, intercourse F. I mean homosexual F.
So
Like,
are we saying that if you say any of those things that Microsoft...
Well, you never know. Like,
that.
that's how vague it is. Like, you
Yeah.
just don't know. And that's the scary part of it. Is and sure, they're unlikely to abuse it, but it only takes one abuse of it, and then the trust is gone. You know what I mean? Like,
But there's no challenge system in place. So yes, somebody can abuse it. But what do you do if somebody's there that just for whatever reason doesn't like you?
Yeah.
And I'd argue very strongly that and some of the high-profile bannings from Twitter, and I'll say his name, Milo. Now for all the stuff he did, the fact that Twitter even cared he was there, it just staggers me. With hundreds of millions of users, and they're focused on one person. I mean, they should be writing.
But
an edit button instead, for God's sake.
That's
an
ignoring.
Edit button, do other things that are important.
That's ignoring the social capital that he had. Like that's pretending that he existed in a vacuum and that he didn't have the army of swarming like alt-right bots to do what he needed. But like, I understand. Like they're very happy to let it go as long as the controversy doesn't go too far one way. You know what I mean? Like
Twitter, brand.
And it's all, and that is 100% it, Megan. They can pretend that it's a moral crusade, but it is 100% brand.
Yeah.
If people are paying because there's controversy and it's bringing people there to go, oh my God, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then the second it starts to become, well, hang on, like this is too far. We believe this will affect our stock price.
Logan Paul.
Exactly it. Like that's exactly when they'll act, when it is all about the brand. And that is the problem with corporations pretending that they have moral clauses. They don't. Like by sheer virtue, they don't. Like.
Now we've discussed the tech companies overstepping their boundaries with our cloud data. I think that's got ramifications for individuals and businesses. But video game publishers occasionally do that as well. I think one of the misunderstandings though is they're doing it and like why are they doing it and what are they trying to achieve, and are they achieving that properly? Can I read quickly a quote from is it Jeff Kaplan?
Yes.
We now proactively seek out social media sites like YouTube, for example, and look for incidents of very toxic behaviour and track down the accounts that are participating in those and action them, oftentimes before anybody's even reported them or they've shown up in any other place. That's just one example of us being proactive that I think is going to make a big difference over time. Now he's talking about getting toxic accounts, if you want to call it that.
Derogatory behaviour, the whole thing.
Maybe before, bit Minority Report, for anybody old out there that's seen old Tom Cruise movies. I mean...
It sounds like they're creating jobs, but honestly, Blizzard, out of any publisher out there, developer out there, they have always been one for zero bullshit. Zero tolerance on people hacking their games, like World of Warcraft, everything like this.
They kind of had to be.
It doesn't surprise me that they've cracked down on this level. So potentially, you know, sitting there typing in keywords like Blizzard, Overwatch. But honestly, you guys have been on Twitch. I watch it every week, and I can honestly tell you within the first 5 minutes of trying to find a random like streamer, every single time I'm guaranteed to find someone that starts like dropping bombs. You know what I'm saying? You cannot avoid it. It is the culture, and I don't blame them. Well, this is about their branding and making sure they don't want to be affiliated with people that are really being like racist and like all that kind of stuff. I'm all about it.
The only caveat I would say, and this is, when it comes to Overwatch League, they've been very proactive because they've had the Heba file, which they had to stop the kid from chatting up the 15-year-old.
Yeah, so this is serious shit.
Yeah, like they had the kid stick his finger up at the camera, which was kind of nothing. Like I looked at it, I was like, especially because it's like I'm pretty sure it was like one of the Asian players, one of the Korean players or something.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't have the same stigma there.
Didn't our Asian news host do that to the camera in one segment? But also the AFL fines football players for doing the same thing.
Yeah, so it's very on par, and I really rate that.
Of course, but I think at the same time, and again, the AFL's a good example here. Whereas if a player was to say that, they'd be in front of the
They'd be
cameras.
fined,
You can tell what you want about
publicly
Collingwood.
shamed.
They're pretty good at getting their players up when they do something dumb. But even when the community does stuff, they will go after them. But this starts to go into that borderline of define toxic.
That's
if I said to
correct.
you, what's toxic? What's a toxic behaviour?
That's right. So where do you draw the line of like what's going to offend somebody and what's not? Because in this day and age, everyone's offended by everything.
Yeah.
So you really, as a brand, Blizzard, like for example, they have to have clear understanding of what they believe. They want their game, one of the most watched games online right now, to represent in the community.
And especially because it does bring that younger clientele. Like it's got like the cute character and like the cute character designs, all the different types of players, all that kind of stuff, and all the 15-year-olds pick Genji anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like that should be toxic behavior. If you play only Genji, that's the absolute pinnacle of toxic behavior.
My son's graduated Overwatch from Plants vs Zombies. He plays Lucio.
Lucio.
Oh, he's really good at it. But anyway, that's this
point.
point.
But it is
Shout
that
out.
thing of
Hey, Campbell.
it's actually that thing of you are right. Like people do need to be proactive in their communities, and like you say, Blizzard has always been at the forefront of that. But it does become a question of we need to have it's kind of a couple of things. We need to have a better definition of what we consider truly toxic, or what is bannable on this.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that, of course, is have the conversation on like why. And the thing is, we aren't in an environment where you can have that conversation.
That's it.
Anyway.
And say if you're trying to be an up-and-coming budding streamer that wants to get themselves out there and become an influencer in the industry,
drop an N-bomb.
what's if their shtick is to be that guy that's always
Yeah.
like, being offensive and being rude, and that's their jive.
Well,
like it's hard to say.
I mean, that's PewDiePie wasn't like dropping bombs. And that,
No,
his shtick was
he
being-
used it in the
His shtick
pejorative.
was being over the
No,
top.
but
he got famous
when he said it, I mean, again, this is a different conversation. But when he said he used it in the pejorative, somebody shot him and he died, and he said like
he got
it wasn't singing along to a Kanye song, man. This wasn't like a passing thing. He straight up said it as the pejorative.
Okay, and then bringing that back, like he's got millions and millions of followers. What are they going to do?
What
are they going to do?
The 20th largest country in the world by
Yeah.
something. It's massive.
So I think it is tough to say, like, how much of it is Blizzard's responsibility and how much is it a wider responsibility, and how do you approach this being both sensitive to people's privacy requirements and like their absolute like enshrined privacy requirements, and being proactive with this kind of stuff. And I think we are slipping a little bit too far towards a little bit too authoritarian for me, coming from the hippie libertarian I am.
Yeah,
but,
you're a resident communist.
I know, right? And people say that, and I'm like, I'm really not that authoritarian, dude. Like,
This to me aligns in a similar way to the Microsoft thing, how they're taking away accounts. This is what Microsoft's action is compared to Blizzard. This is what they can do.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the thing here is you're losing, I mean, a lot of money. Cause I guess that's the other thing, because they're skinner boxing people with their loot boxes anyway. Again, another conversation. So you're still losing a lot of money potentially with all the skins and stuff that you bought. But with Microsoft, I mean, they could actually affect your business and your actual home life. That's what they take away. So I guess that's probably the only distinction I can think of. So.
Yeah, I'd say that's overstepping, because they need to be kept separate. All right, look, one thing I also wanted to raise, and I feel very strongly about this, because we are talking about private companies confiscating goods off people. And I'd like to bring up the minimum wage in Australia is $18.29, I think it was at least last year. And that's a lot of money for some people. And once they've paid rent, they've paid their car rego, petrol, food, school fees and that for their kids, there's not a lot of money left over. So to them, buying a console and buying games is a massive investment. And so, but we're talking, I think, a little bit too frivolously about taking the things they've worked hard for and taken off them. Now, yes, they may be obnoxious, they may behave badly, but we need to have a proper discussion. I think government needs to actually give some thought to as far as laws go. Can companies then turn around and say, yes, we sold you this product when we didn't care who you were. Now we're taking it off you because we didn't like.
Because your kids just played it and you said all this offensive stuff on the internet, and we're deciding to ban your Microsoft account. And this 12-year-old's going to cry for a month now that it's gone.
Yeah, and is that a price to pay? And I don't, and like I said, I don't think the people making these decisions understand the value of those games to people. I really don't. And I think there's some in media who have championed it, who also don't. And let's be honest, if you work at like can I name anybody?
No, don't. It's right. Better if you don't.
We get some
We were just
outlets.
talking about legal departments.
You're getting your games for free anyway,
Yeah.
right? And you may not even want those games. You may not even like gamers, some of them. So you basically, the value of the game, have you lost it? And to a young kid, it's still a valuable game. So I play a share account with my son, whether that's allowed or not, it doesn't matter. Now he plays Overwatch and he loves it, but he said to me when I was preparing for this, Dad, are you doing anything on the internet that's gonna get your account kicked off? Because he's got all his stats and everything. Now that's a legit concern, and that's not really. That sort of makes me think, yeah, look, is it a fair punishment? And private companies taking possessions off people, is that a fair thing for them to do?
I will give again. I talk about Dota a lot, but Dota's probably my example for this one. You can get matchmaking delays, matchmaking bans. You'll get put into low priority.
Yeah,
if you get done for being like communication abuse, they call it. You can't type or you can't speak for 3 months. If you keep it up, 6 month matchmaking ban. You come back in 6 months, cool off, come back in 6 months. I think that's fine. I think because you have, even if your application of it is inconsistent, there is a time frame that can be served.
Yeah.
You can try and appeal it and you say whatever. And if they say, look, here's the instances where you said blah blah blah, go for 6 months. Think about your life.
I'm all about a suspension.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, you got to learn a lesson somehow. It's like a temporary thing, like a band-aid fix, like letter of warning. I'm all about it. But say, what if you were driving and you were speeding and you got pulled over and they were like, cool, that's your final warning. You're on 0 demerits. I'm going to take your car so you can't drive at all and leave you on the side of the road.
They can do that though. That's the thing. Like,
yeah,
they 100%. But again, it is all
first.
stipulated under the law. You would have your day in court. They would seize your car and you would say, fine, but I'm challenging this in court. And you have the right to do so. In this situation, they just bleach out.
You get escalated warnings as well. I'd like to point that out.
I agree. That's right.
Yeah, it does. And that's something on the internet. We've gone with block culture, especially on social media. Like, you see something bad, blocked, and that's forever. Whereas I think it should be suspension and like for longer periods of time.
It should be tiers of like punishment first.
Yeah. And also, if you're going to take, and that's why I get back to there's people out there that do struggle to buy these games. If you're going to take people's games off them, you need to refund it, I believe. You need to give them back, because I'll never be comfortable with the idea that you say, thanks for your money.
Yeah.
And now you can't use what you just bought.
There's no reason Microsoft couldn't say, right, for the next 3 years, you are banned from verbal chat and you are banned from sending messages to people.
This just comes down to an education piece where parents, or whatever the situation may be, people need to have more discussions openly about the risks and evaluations of what they could be getting into.
And what's acceptable behaviour.
Exactly.
And that as well, you understand, and I think that's the thing, they're trying too hard to force the hand when they don't need to. If they had better build up towards it, if they had a more integrated, if we had better awareness around this kind of stuff, I don't think we'd have the problem quite as heavily as we do. And realistically, like, kids are little shits. Like, they're sociopaths without the...
This isn't new. It's always been this way. It's just developed differently over generations.
And to each other, that behaviour is not outlandish. And that's one of the things with the internet now. You got different age groups are mixing, right? That never used to mix before. The rowdy teens would hang out at the mall, the parents and the adults didn't have to see them, right? Only the teachers knew how bad they were. Now they're all on the same platforms, and so they're so what's really cool.
Shout outs to Reddit,
cool edgy behaviour on one is something that those of us that are older are going, oh, I'm past this shit.
I can't wait for the day when they start bringing in like subjects in primary schools about online bullying and cyberbullying and stuff. If it's not already standard,
it's better than bully hunters. Let's just clear that up. Right?
Oh, that's
another video. Yeah.
Actually, if we do a segment on that, it'll go longer than bully hunters actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll wrap this up. Look, I think the idea of having a very safe space for people to be on the internet and play games is a great idea. I'm not sure it's realistic because if you have a look on the internet, I've always said the internet is people and what you see is what we really are. And if you have a look at our other culture, it's all conflict-based. People love conflict. People love the fights. Most people on Twitter are there to watch the arguments, right? They don't contribute. So if we were going to make absolutely safe spaces where nobody gets upset by anything else they see, we're going to end up with 7 billion separate internets with one person in each one. I'm not entirely sure that's viable. So I think while we're heading down this road, while there may be some good ideas, as I said earlier, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The internet and gaming is especially bad like that. We really do need to keep a check on the solutions we come up with and make sure they're good solutions, and make sure we're not looking at those solutions from a position where we're totally disregarding the other side, because some of if we hand out those sorts of harsh punishments, especially to some younger people, I'm not sure will affect their behaviour or improve it. And I think we need to really consider the measures we take to try and make the online spaces better.